Hello and welcome to Loitering, part of the Geek Show podcast network. We are the Geek Show's dedicated arts, books, culture, stupid quizzes, that kind of highbrow stuff. We do with all that. I'm Graham, and this week I've been joined by
Andrew
and Rob.
Indeed.
When did we start having to introduce ourselves?
When I forgot that we don't normally do it.
I do enjoy yelling my own name like I'm a Pokemon, though.
It caught me completely off guard. I was like, oh, what do I say here? What's my name again?
It's kind of like how every single film could be improved by having someone yell the title in the middle of it.
Sorry, I'm just imagining that on Aliens.
There's a solid plot reason to do it.
Exactly.
You know, because it's the one movie that's in my mind at the moment, I was about to say, yeah, what if someone said, we're going onto the Fury Road? But yeah, that's actually a line from the film.
Yes. But by the time you get to the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, whoa, that's going to take some manoeuvring.
What's this thing I saw? Is that... There's something I saw on Amazon Prime called The Starving Games. Is that one of those movies where they just try to do a parody of something and fail?
It's a parody. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It would be nice if it was a bald-faced rip-off. I would admire that level of shamelessness, but it's not, so I don't.
So
yeah, it's the Transmorphers series Hornet.
Or Atlantic Rim.
Yes. Which somehow sounds worse. I mean...
It does make it sound like a toilet, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, we can't sit here and talk about Guillermo del Toro's plagiarised toilets all day.
I mean, we can, but we probably shouldn't.
Yes.
Yes. Potential episode titles already.
No, we have to do some news stories. Later on in the show, by the way, does anyone have anything to review?
Can I review The Sun? It's too hot.
Okay, I thought you meant the newspaper, which would be acceptable. The Guardian published a review of Dominic Cummings' old blog recently. It was weird.
His old one?
Yeah.
As in...
Well, he's had to... Obviously, he's had to stop writing it now because he's realised people are reading what he's saying.
Yeah. And who writes a blog for it to be read?
Yes. But yeah, that's good, because if we do have nothing at the back end of the show, I do have a quiz.
Ooh.
Well, for the show then, I will make the sacrifice of not reviewing Spider-Man Forever Young this week. Because I forgot we were recording today and I'm only about halfway through it, if that.
Right, fair enough. Yes, but before the quiz, we have to do some news stories, which I think ask the big questions of the day. Specifically, why are there so many time-travelling lesbians?
It's a philosophical question that
why?
That people have pondered for thousands of years.
Of course.
Since the time of Socrates. Sorry, I can't continue.
We live in a society of time-travelling lesbians. In fairness, the question being asked is, why are there so many new books about time-travelling lesbians, which I trust you'll agree makes it all make sense?
It makes a lot more sense than why are there so many time-travelling lesbians as,
I mean, it is certainly the more disappointing scenario, but yeah, it makes more sense.
Gentleman Jack Series 2 goes in surprising new direction.
A direction he didn't expect.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid pointing out the obvious mistake there, but let's go on. This is being asked by Amal El Motar in The Guardian, where else, who in 2016 co-wrote a book with Max Gladstone called This Is How You Lose the Time War. She was initially worried that a story about time-travelling lesbians would not seem relevant, which, when is it not?
Oh, that Gentleman Jack. I got it now. Damn it.
Jesus Christ. Genuinely pathetic.
I'll have you know, I have standards that need to be kept.
Esther, come on, I need to hear more of this fascinating story about someone being confused by authors identifying a niche market.
I mean, it is a niche market, and there's a lot of people filling that niche. Don't. Good.
It's what Gentleman Jack said.
I said nothing. I was being good.
To quote the article, our novella is just one of several recent stories of queer women time travelling. There is Kate Hartfield's Nebula-nominated novella Alice Payne Arrives and its sequel Alice Payne Rides. I said don't. Which seeks to 18th century women, lovers becoming embroiled in a war. There is also Cameron Hurley's The Light Brigade, Kate Mascherini's The Psychology of Time Travel, Kelly Robson's Gods, Monsters and the Lucky Peach, and Annalee Newitz's The Future of Another Timeline. They are all about lesbian time travellers.
Well, I mean, it's a niche market, but it's a market that's there, so people are going to write for it.
It's a fair point.
You know, to be honest, I've read loads and loads of crap that's come out of the East, and a lot of it's bad. Some of it is all like ultra nationalistic, and I dropped it like a hot rock. As far as I'm concerned, if there's a niche, then people are going to write for it. Yeah. Doesn't matter what the niche is, people are going to write for it. So, you know, it's all fair game.
Also, could maybe be that there was fairly recently a very popular science fiction series with a large queer fan base that recently got a female protagonist and is also about time travel and could maybe have something to do with the rise in popularity of the genre.
Who could that be? I can't
think what you could possibly be referring to, as you know, and I definitely don't have a whole series of bookmarked Doctor and Yaz /fiction to prove it.
I don't know who you're on about.
So yeah, that's enough about Star Trek Beyond.
Yes.
You know what? Give myself a high five for that one.
El Motar finishes by pointing out that part of the fascination that queer women have towards the past, as well as time travel specifically, is that a lot of women's stories are often suppressed. And she talks about, and I had never heard about this, Joanna Russ, an author who literally wrote the book on how to suppress women's writing. Literally. It was called How to Suppress Women's Writing.
What?
Apart from anything else, that seems very self-defeating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why we haven't heard of it before, right? It is a series of satirical essays on how best to ignore or deny the quality of books written by women, and it was published in 1983.
See, I thought it was going to be like, that Mrs. Beaton's cookbook. I thought it was going to be something written in like the 1890s.
Yes. That sounds bad, though. I would love to read that.
Yeah, now that I know it's satirical, yeah, that sounds good.
Yes. Speaking of literary sexism, we are going to have to face up with a horror in our midst, and that horror is the way that profile writers write about women they're interviewing.
Oh boy.
Now, every now and then, as you know, I like to read out a paragraph or so from the news article that we're dealing with because it's just great, and this is just great. It's another Guardian article. It is by, it's by Sean Kane, and it begins with this. A startled deer with sensuous lips. What comes to mind? A hellish phantasm of a door-human hybrid that will definitely stalk and kill you in a dream tonight? Or Sally Rooney's face? Writing in the Swiss newspaper Tagesanzeiger, Martin Abel, a 64-year-old literary critic who could be described as a slim walrus with an unfortunate hairline, has provoked anger and internet fun for his review of Rooney's novel Conversations with Friends, which praised her, quote, promising physical appearance, which is apparently like a terrifying chimera.
Wow.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's a nuclear bomb of an opener. But this is this is Sarah has just remembered that we start half an hour early today. Would that there was a lesbian time traveller to help us out?
Don't look at me.
Could we ask promising female authors who happen to physically resemble the Wendigo?
Oh, wow.
Let's just take 5 while she gets here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of Sally Rooney and I'm thinking, I don't see the resemblance between her and a deer.
A weird deer freak thing, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the lack of antlers is definitely a disappointment.
Yeah. I mean, that whole description that he gives just, it doesn't wash at all. She just looks like a normal person.
She looks like a normal person, like one of the characters in her book, Normal People, which is available from all good bookshops in paperback now.
Hi! Oh my God, I'm so late. I'm so sorry. I'm just a complete doyle. I forgot. I was just like, oh yeah, I can make 6:30, and then I totally didn't.
Oh boy, you've missed a story, somewhat ironically given the circumstances, about lesbian time travellers.
Yeah.
Flipping heck. Oh no! Oh man.
But we are currently, unfortunately, talking about the Swiss critic Martin Abel, who has been widely mocked on Twitter for writing a review of Sally Rooney's novel Conversations with Friends, where he describes her appearance as promising like a startled deer with sensuous lips.
Oh my God, what is wrong with him? Hashtag 1970s.
Yep.
It's sort of one of those things, isn't it, where Sally Rooney has written 2 novels. She is still preposterously young. One of them has sold a ridiculous amount, and the thing that we are talking about as promising is not her career, it's her sensuous lips.
Yeah. I can't say I'm sort of surprised. Any female will have encountered this.
Yeah.
So, but I would have thought he would have come up with something a little better than, she wrote a book, did she, as well? Oh, great, cool. Bless her. Oh, all those words.
Aside from anything else, we were talking about how Sally Rooney does not much resemble a deer.
I haven't got a picture of her here.
Well, I'll spoil it for you now. As Andrew pointed out, she has no antlers whatsoever.
Not even one?
Not even one.
What?
I'm living in a nightmare hell world where I don't know if I'm on a podcast or not. Is this just chat? Are we recording? What's going on?
You say this like there's a massive qualitative difference between us just chatting about nonsense and us making a podcast.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's the secret, Captain. I'm always literally loitering. This week, can we just not edit?
Just the unexpurgated version. This is literally loitering later.
Please say you did the finger guns when you said later.
Later. Yes, I did then, yeah. It adds to it, totally.
See, finger guns, they're a universal symbol.
Yes. Oh boy, so this podcast's falling apart completely. Should we move on to another story, or do we have more to say about Sally Rooney being mistaken for a deer?
I don't think I've said all I have to say on the matter.
Have you covered her envy of Mozart?
That's a good deep cut gag. I like that.
Other than that, nah.
It's a shame that male authors do not get written about in this way. Like, I've recently read an academic paper about 100 Years of Solitude, and by the end of it, I had no idea if Gabriel Garcia Marquez was a strapping hunk or not.
It's a real concern, isn't it?
Yes. So, I mean, this guy's a tosser, obviously. He should know that according to the much higher standards of British journalism, you imply that the woman you were talking about is pretty in a way that makes it clear that you actively resent that. Like, for example, the Spectator's radio critic Melanie McDonough, who describes Lauren Laverne as having a face for television rather than radio. See?
That's the way to do it.
What more do you harpies want? That was a neat segue onto an article that you, Sarah, brought to my attention.
Yes, this is the famous or infamous Spectator article by McDonough, who's also been known as McDonald's and McDonut and a few other names during the week, in which she reviews the presentation of Desert Island Discs by Lauren Laverne. Kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
This one.
This fella.
This one that basically amounts to a very long article saying, she's working class, isn't she?
How dare she be?
I mean, part of the reason why I'm confused about this, and before I start, I should say that I've used up 2 of my complimentary views for this month at the Spectator website, researching this story, so let no one say I don't sacrifice for you, listeners. Now, if I want to read a round table where Toby Young, Rod Liddle and Tarky talk about Jewish skull measurements, I might never get to read it. But yeah, it's a whole essay that seems to me to be completely underpinned by the idea that Desert Island Discs is basically the radio equivalent of the Ascent of Man, and it should be presented by someone who's immensely highbrow, rather than something which, I mean, is this fair, do you think? Something which is middle class and old enough to make people forget that it's just a bit of silly fluff?
Yeah, I think so. It's sort of imbued in this mystical tradition that's decades old, and the sun is kind of setting gently on a lake, and there's dust in the sun, and it's that sort of like creaky, but it is basically, hey everybody, let's choose our favourite tunes.
Yeah, basically. It's Steve Wright's All Request Friday for people who are considering moving on to a farm.
Indeed.
I mean, speaking of, I love also Ken Bruce, because this is working life Andrew, who now listens to Radio 2 all day. Ken Bruce has a segment called The Tracks of Our Years, which is literally the exact same thing.
This is true.
But kind of with the serial number filed off.
Yes. It's full of great, unintentionally revealing things. Like, there's a bit where McDonough talks to another radio critic who's left anonymous because, as the recent Roger Scruton controversy has shown us, Spectator writers think it's a violation of their human rights when their own name is attached to their terrible opinions. But he talks about Laverne interviewing John Cooper Clarke and says it was sucking up to PC idiocy and brandished plebbishness. Guests can be nearly anonymous providing they are vibrant and diverse. You can see him sort of typing that away with his little Pepe avatar.
That's what I miss about the Desert Island Discs of the years past. The hard-hitting journalism aspect.
Exactly.
The real deep, probing interviews they used to do.
Yeah.
What would be a suitably un-PC set of questions for John Cooper Clarke? Do you think somebody's going to sit down and sort of say to him, now, John, I know you, like me, you're a great admirer of the legacy of John Selwyn Gummer, but who else would you pick for your top 5 John Major cabinet members? Like, I hate to break it to you, but if you're the radio critic of the spectacularly stupid fascist magazine The Spectator, you're not going to enjoy an interview with John Cooper Clarke no matter who's doing it, unless it's like the ghost of General Franco or something.
Was this John Cooper Clarke before or after he was on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown? Because all you have to do is look for John Cooper Clarke on YouTube to get an idea of, well, who he is and what his opinions are.
Yeah, but that would be being ignorant of popular culture, which makes you clever. This is a complaint about being ignorant of classical culture, which makes you dumb.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't understand about classical music is obviously a complete ignoramus.
I mean,
I prefer the word Philistine.
I can understand why someone would say a lack of understanding of classical music makes you a bad host for Desert Island Discs, but McDonough provides absolutely no evidence that Laverne doesn't understand classical music other than pointing out over and over again that she is northern and working class.
Yeah.
Does she have like a t-shirt that says that, or like a sign that she has, or like something in her wallet that proves that?
If she does, why don't I?
A northern working class license.
I'm pretty sure all the Kaniki albums were called just that, Northern Working Class.
Oh, that's...
Like they did the Led Zeppelin thing, like it was Northern Working Class 1, Northern Working Class 2.
Houses of the Northern Working Class. Oh, there's nothing that makes my day like getting a Kaniki reference into a show.
I find the next edition of Desert Island Discs, Lauren says something like that. Well, you've chosen Beethoven's Fifth Symphony as one of your discs. Well, actually, we're just going to play Handel's Messiah because it all sounds the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, I loved it when Justin Bieber did a cover of that.
I would wholeheartedly support a troll version of Desert Island Discs when, no matter what anyone requests, they just play The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy at the end of every single one. That would be great. Should we move to something slightly less misogynistic than The Spectator?
Yeah.
Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there. Back it up there, fella.
Slightly less misogynistic.
Oh,
I knew he was queuing something up, and I'd braced myself, and I was ready for it. I was ready for anything except that.
It's quite rare, isn't it, that you get to talk about perhaps Britain's most infamous living serial killer on a Books podcast. But this is a story that I was going to cover a couple of weeks back, and I'm glad I held off because it's just become funnier and funnier. Paul Harrison, who describes himself as the world's #1 serial killer expert, and earns up to 15 grand a night giving talks about his history of criminal profile or mind hunting.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He, in a stinging rebuke from jail, has been branded a wazzock by the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh, ouch.
That's got a sting.
That's got a smart.
It is in the fallout from the revelation that quite a lot of Harrison's claims to have met, interviewed and profiled the really big serial killers, and we are talking like the sort of the Beyoncés of the serial killer world. We're talking Ted Bundy, Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, like the travelling Wilburys of serial killers, really. If those guys got together, whoa.
And again, like you were kind of joking about earlier, is literally the plot of Mindhunter Season 1.
Yes, it is. These have been revealed as mostly fabricated. His claim to be Reggie Cray's deathbed, apparently, is a lie. So some of his claims are just fantastically... I mean, how did these even pass the smell test? Because they are basically serial killer humble brags. apparently Ted Bundy said, "You're the guy who gets inside our heads." And Sutcliffe reportedly said, "You seem completely indifferent to me. I'm scared of you."
Wow.
I mean, why would he say these things if they were completely verifiable? I mean, the Krays aren't going to be dying on their own. And all of the serial killers need somebody else present in the room.
That's true, yes.
I think it's one of those things, when you have, like, pathological liars, they basically, part of the psychology of them is that they continue to lie in the hopes, it's a vain hope, but in the hopes that the lies will eventually accumulate en masse and somehow become the truth. You know how an ostrich buries its head in the sand? It's very much like that.
Yeah, it's the thrill of the chase for a lot of them. I find the psychology of hoaxes fascinating. I would certainly attend a talk by someone who psychologically profiled Paul Harrison, I'll tell you that much.
Can I do it?
Well, I think Peter Sutcliffe's already cornered the market.
I'm pretty sure I went out with at least one of them.
Was it Wazik A or Wazik B?
Wait, do you mean hoaxes or Peter Sutcliffe?
Compulsive liars.
So it was Wazik C then?
I went to school with a compulsive liar. It was absolutely fascinating. Like, one time he said that he'd got a mobile phone, and this was at the time when mobile phones were a substantial luxury item. And the next day he brought in a TV control with a radio aerial sellotaped onto it.
What?
See what I mean about...
Oh my God, what level of Fantasyland? Holy mother.
That's the thing about compulsive liars. On some level, they actually believe what they're saying is the truth.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
This is fascinating.
Somebody who's lying just for just to try and gain some fame or something like that, I wouldn't call them a compulsive liar, because they know what they're saying isn't the truth, and so the extra lies are just to try and bury their head in the sand and just kind of keep everyone at a distance.
Yeah.
Whereas compulsive liars do actually believe a lot of what they're saying.
Yeah, I guess as much as we joke, it is kind of a sad situation.
Yeah.
Which is, that's just what I told Martin Luther King and Elvis when we were on that spaceship.
Again, knew it was coming.
My favourite detail from this story, before we move on, is to do with his trips to America. Obviously, in his books, he's flying out to America all the time to meet all of the big names in the serial killing game. But his second wife, Elena Watkins, told The Sun that, in fact, the first time he went to America was in 1999 for a Loch Ness Monster convention.
But why would...
Yeah, I'm confused by that as well. I'm confused by that as well. Why would you have a Loch Ness Monster convention in America? Why not have it in Loch Ness?
There are a lot of things about this story, but I think that's the one that's got me.
Well, maybe not in Loch Ness, but, around Loch Ness, maybe.
Like the shields were weakened by everything up to this point, but that's what just burst right through with him.
I'm surprised he wasn't able to write about his experiences with the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. I mean, back in the late 90s, that was Scotland's biggest international star. He was every inch the James McAvoy of his day.
Who, Loch Ness Monster?
The Loch Ness Monster, yeah. Now, a quick insight into my process selecting stories for the show. It's not, as some critics have suggested, that I Google the word books, click on the news tab, and pick the 12 dumbest things that have happened this fortnight.
See, that's how I always did it.
No, it's a long, laborious, kind of academic process that you go through, isn't it?
That's why we leave it to Graham. He actually curates things. I just went through going, this is really dumb, talking about that. This is really dumb, talking about that.
It requires a level of professional discernment, I'd like to think. There have been so many stories recently about censorship. For example, Yuval Noah Harari's new book has a Russian edition which, shall we say, tidies away some of the criticism of Putin in the book. a lot of things that I just thought were maybe a bit too sort of frowny face for this show. But sometimes there is a story about censorship that is so important, you have to put normal literary loitering conventions aside and cover it.
Let's get serious, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's put on that Dave Rubin voice. So appropriate too, considering what you're about to see. Yes, it has come to the attention of the Daily Beast that there has been a years-long legal battle to get a critically important piece of American modern art in the Smithsonian Museum. It is a painting by Julian Raven. It is 8 foot tall, 16 foot wide. All the best art's big. That's just aesthetics.
That's just fact.
Yeah. And it is called Unafraid and Unashamed. Raven claims that the Smithsonian's refusal to exhibit it is nothing less than a craven act of political censorship. I will put it in the Facebook chat so you can see it in its majesty.
Wow.
Oh
my. Where to start? There's so much going on there.
It won't let me open. It won't let me open.
Oh no, the page can't be found.
No, I'm being denied. I see things in the small scale. No, don't do that to me.
Yeah,
don't make it bigger. Don't make it bigger. It'll burn your eyes.
I have resorted to just kind of basically almost touching my face on the laptop screen to see.
What does it look like? What does it look like? Oh, hang on. I think I might be able to get it. Copy.
I mean, for what I can make out, it's certainly a challenging piece.
I think, yeah, what I like most about it is that, I don't know if you've noticed, but it contains many symbols. For example, the eagle represents America. The American flag represents America.
Yes.
The continent of North America represents America and, to a lesser extent, Canada.
Oh, Mr. Graham.
Oh,
what
yes?
What does the large slab of undercooked hamburger represent?
I mean, every great artist must leave something for future generations.
Found it. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Rob, would you like to describe for the listeners what you were seeing before you?
Cosmic Trump, somehow. And I hate to call it that, but it really looks like a cosmic Trump. Cosmic. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, the eagle carrying the American flag in space. Oh, wow. I mean, the sun rising over the horizon of planet Earth that's really nicely done. But Trump just looking, I don't know, is that pensive? His eyes are wonky. Why are his eyes wonky?
I think he's distressed that the eagle is stealing his flag to use as a nest.
Was that flag his hairnet or something?
That's how he keeps it looking so fresh.
It's to protect from the hair thieves. Oh God!
They come in the night.
Oh wow! Oh, I've just seen the worst part of this. Oh, where the sun is shining, right?
Yeah.
Where the sun is shining. This is so much God bless the US. Where the sun is shining, just take a very close look there to see a giant, big ass, bigger than like the city of New York, Statue of Liberty.
Yes! The Statue of Liberty is so big it's actually casting like most of New York State in shadow.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
It's like, I mean, it's like he's wanting to wrap the flag of America around the rest of the world.
Also, his colours are wrong. Your colours are wrong, man. Your colours are wrong.
I mean, he's not the one to ask about colour, let's be honest.
This is true.
I think my favourite two details, apart from, as Rob's just pointed out, the giant Statue of Liberty, which is amazing, are the fact that the American flag is hemorrhaging stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which feels like a prediction of the future, to be honest.
There's an interesting sort of crescent and star formation on the eagle's wing, which I would sort of...
Oh boy, there is!
Look at.
Is there? Crescent and star formation on the upper wing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, possibly prophetic, most of the east coast of the United States appears to be a charred mass.
Yeah, the only green parts are on the central and west coast.
East coast.
East coast, sorry.
Have you got it backwards?
No, I've got it the right way. Central and east coast. I said west coast, didn't I? Yeah.
West coast in darkness.
The west coast is in darkness, yeah.
Chad remains off.
Basically, California go bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're a bunch of filthy liberals, apparently.
Well, yes, I think that's it. He's just highlighting Middle America. I'm surprised something disastrous hasn't happened to New York.
Yeah,
except that it's in total shadow the whole time.
It'll never see daylight again.
Eternal eclipse. The Star Spangled Banner is a bit sort of the worst for wear in places.
Oh, what do you think? What do you expect? An eagle's been nesting in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised it's hemorrhaging stars. It's covered in eagle poop.
And 2/5 of that painting is Donald Trump's face. I mean, the ego on the man.
Well, he's trying to make up for the size of his hands, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought just with the lack of any sense of proportion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just things.
Oh my god!
There's not really any composition, is there?
No.
Do you think this? Do you think this is a cue up to a new version of that old religious song? Instead of "He's got the whole world in his hand," he's got the whole world in his hair. He's got the whole wide world.
What if it's saying that Donald Trump is Galactus?
No, you take that back.
Is that Galactus libel?
You take that back.
Does that make Sarah Huckabee Sanders the Silver Surfer?
That's why I'm saying you take that back.
I'm really seeing the problems with this now you're going into it.
I feel like there's an episode of 30 Rock where they have to apologise for something, so they do a massive tribute to America and the States and the Stars and Stripes and marching down on the spot dressed in dressed in the flag essentially, and that's kind of what this looks like, except it's serious.
Yes.
It's not done as a piss take.
I mean, the question on everyone's lips is, why the hell did the Smithsonian turn this down?
It's big art. It's a big art conspiracy.
According to the painter, Julian Raven, the last thing that the gallery's director Kim Satchett told him was, "It's no good."
What message did you take from that? This is extremely good. It's too good for us.
I think before I interpret Satchett's words, I would first need to know if she has full sensuous lips. But yeah, couple of reading lists before we do a quiz. We've got a quiz.
Whoa, excellent. We haven't done a quiz for a while.
Before the quiz, could I just share this with everybody, that this came up?
Okay.
This came up and I don't know where it's from. I don't know any of the background to it or anything like that. But I'm going to share it with people just because I can. And it is a Trump picture. There you go. Enjoy.
Oh, that's gross.
Oh boy, it's really captured the almost skinless pinkishness of Boris Johnson's complexion.
Yeah, what's his face made out of? I mean, that...
It's like that bit in Hellraiser, isn't it?
Yep.
I don't like it.
I would block its passage to the Smithsonian.
It looks like someone's blocked their passages. Oh, wow. Anyway, you were talking about a quiz.
I was talking about a quiz, yeah. We'll skip quickly over this because it's a story. It's just nice, isn't it? It's nice to be nice, isn't it? I like nice stuff. We have 11 books that Barack Obama has recommended as summer reading. And I realise he's not a busy man anymore, but when the first one is the collected works of Toni Morrison, you do think, you've got a lot of time on your hands.
Oh, we have to give him stuff to do.
It's true, yeah.
So you say it's nice, but it's starting to sound like a bit of a cry for help.
The other books on the list were The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, the new book from the author of The Underground Railroad. Exhalation by Ted Chiang, who wrote the story that was turned into the film Arrival. He's apparently finally got round to reading Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Men Without Women by Haruki Murakami, and my God, judging by his Bad Sex in Literature award last year.
I thought that was the same guy.
Yep. Maybe it's a good thing that these men do not have women around.
Yep.
Yeah.
American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. I do love the idea of former presidents reading spy novels. Bit of a busman's holiday, really, isn't it? The Shallows by Nicholas Carr, which I assume is a novel adaptation of that song that Lady Gaga did with him who plays Rocket Raccoon. Lab Girl, a memoir by the geobiologist Hope Yaren. Inland by Tia Obrecht, another new novel, this one by the author of The Tiger's Wife. How to Read the Air by Dino Mengetsu. And Made by Stephanie Land.
Well, I am certainly glad that now we know what Barack Obama's publicist thinks smart people read.
But what, ladies and gentlemen, what would it be like if we couldn't read any of those books? Because books are rejected every day, not for as brutal and unjustifiable a reason as the person who runs the Smithsonian Art Gallery looking at that painting and going, yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it? But for all sorts of reasons, nonetheless. That is why I have a list here of 10 rejection letters received by famous authors. What I want you to know, to tell me, is which author received these slips.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
We all primed?
Okay.
Yep.
Probably.
It's a pretty easy one to start. Peter J. Bentley of Bentley & Son Publishing House wrote the following. First, we must ask, does it have to be a whale? While this is a rather delightful, if somewhat esoteric plot device, we recommend an antagonist with a more popular visage among the younger readers. For instance, could not the captain be struggling with a depravity towards young, perhaps voluptuous maidens?
Flippin' heck! Instead of Moby Dick, it could have been Moby Lady.
Oh, I imagine the title could stay.
Yeah, I was going to say that's more like the porn version of Moby Dick, isn't it? Yeah, it's got a complete with 70s music.
I think I've been sat here thinking, well, no, it can't be Herman Melville. Surely that's too obvious. Surely that's a parody letter. I was going to say, okay, but what if the whale was a sexy lady? What if... I'm very glad that this publisher went on to work for EA in their groundbreaking Shadow of War Lord of the Rings prequel that dared to ask the question, what if Shelob was hot?
Yeah, it is, of course, Moby Dick, and I think everyone gets a well-earned point for working out that it was Herman Melville. But who received this from the extraordinarily named Moberly Luger of Peacock and Peacock Limited? If I may be frank, you certainly are in your prose, I found your efforts to be both tedious and offensive, You really are a man's man, aren't you? I wouldn't be surprised to hear that you penned this entire story locked up at the club, ink in one hand, brandy in the other. Your bombastic, dipsomaniac where-to-now characters had me reaching for my own glass of brandy.
Is it Tennessee Williams?
Oh, I was going to say, please.
Boris Johnson.
I was going to say, please say it's Jane Austen and it's Pride and Prejudice.
No, I guess maybe a Jack Ryan or someone like that.
Either that or it's going to be Mark Twain or someone.
What are your guesses, Sarah?
Tennessee Williams, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Oh, yes. Well, you're all going home empty-handed. It was Ernest Hemingway for The Sun Also Rises.
Oh, damn it.
Wow.
I always get those two people confused. Damn it.
Can I respectfully bow out of the quiz because I realised I said Jack Ryan, the fictional character written by Tom Clancy.
And can I also bow out of the quiz because I said Tennessee Williams instead of the other guy that in my head is Tennessee Williams. Ernest Hemingway. Why? They're totally different people.
I was going to say, how do you keep getting the two confused?
I don't know, because of all the E's, I find it confusing. It's too many E's.
Onwards. This one's quite short. It is... I don't actually have any information for where this is from, but this children's classic was described as an irresponsible holiday story that will never sell.
Jurassic Park.
Give me a sec.
Are you Googling this with quotes? You're putting on the I'm Googling this with quotes around it voice.
That is not what I'm Googling. Was it Arthur Ransom? I was just trying to... I couldn't remember who wrote Swallows and Amazons.
Oh, it could be Hitchhikers.
What's the holiday?
Christmassy? Something Christmassy with the kids? Kids' story based at Christmas? Mary Poppins?
I'm going to stick with Jurassic Park. I'm going to stick with that.
Well, I'll say this. It's none of these things. It's Kenneth Grahame's The Wind in the Willows.
Oh!
Yeah.
So cute.
Okay.
Now, these... I've got to admit, this gets in a sort of midsection where these are hard to guess, but if we push through it, the rest are also really hard to guess.
Okay, good, because we've already failed horribly on the easy one.
I mean, we're like 1 point apiece, so that's fine.
Yeah. Which science fiction classic was described by an editor as an endless nightmare? I think the verdict would be, oh, don't read that horrid book.
Endless nightmare. Oh, don't read that horrid book.
Sounds like a 1950s thing. From the use of the word horrid. Or 40s. What about
Foundation?
Triffids, Day of the Triffids.
I'm going to go with Foundation by Asimov.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
Is that everyone's final answer?
Foundation by Asimov for me.
I am going to say that, oh my god, it's my favourite book and I have forgotten what the
War of the Worlds.
Bloody guy is called who wrote it.
What, War of the Worlds? H.G. Wells? Oh, you want about something by Jules Verne?
George R. Stewart. I knew that there was a Stewart in there somewhere. Yeah, Earth Abides by George R. Stewart, because that's a good book and I like it.
Okay. So that means we have a point to dish out.
Oh.
Thank you. I will take it now and we can just move on.
It goes to Sarah, who correctly pinpointed that it was H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Well done, Sarah.
Nice. Hey.
Very well then.
Which...
To be honest, I thought the right answer was going to be Day of the Triffids, so I was just going for something
Day of
else.
the Triffids was a good answer.
I thought it was going to be Foundation by Asimov.
I'd worked that out. That was very much why you said it.
Yeah, I know, because that's. I don't understand why so many people like the Foundation trilogy. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Can we have another lesson where they mention the central theme of the book in it again?
Nobody's going to want to read a book about a very hungry caterpillar.
A clown that lives in the sewers? Who'd want to read that?
Look, I know we're going to guess Boris Johnson for a lot of these, but no. Which classic satire was rejected with the note, "I haven't the foggiest idea about what the man is trying to say. Apparently the author intends it to be funny."
Probably something by Ben Elton, then.
Any clues?
Set during wartime.
During wartime.
I've got it. It's probably Catch-22, isn't it?
Any
Hitler might part in his downfall.
Okay.
Which is hilarious, actually.
Set during wartime. I mean,
But it is outspoken comedy. I mean, it's very evidently comedy rather than subtle.
Slaughterhouse 5?
Yeah, I was literally supposed to say, is it Catch-22 or Slaughterhouse 5?
Yeah, since you went for Catch-22, I'll go for Slaughterhouse 5.
Exactly.
That's fair. Divvy it up evenly. Which means that in a bizarre turn of events, Andrew has a point.
Hey!
Hooray! Dumb luck wins out again.
Yes, it was Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Which classic but rarely completed, I would say, novel was rejected with the note, "I rack my brains why a chap should need 30 pages to describe how he turns over in bed before going to sleep."
Oh, it's got to be something by Tolstoy.
Ulysses? Finnegan's Wake? No, Ulysses?
Okay, what did you say, Rob?
It's got to be something by Tolstoy.
Yes.
See, automatically, I'd go for. I'd go for.
À la recherche du temps perdu.
What?
In Search of Lost Time, Marcel Proust.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky.
I'm gonna go. See, I want to go War and Peace because 30 pages to describe him turning over is very much Tolstoy's way of doing things.
Yes.
I'm going to go for the one that I always have difficulty pronouncing. Anna Karenina.
Just call it Our Karen.
Yeah, our Karen, that's it.
Well, a big shiny point goes to Sarah.
What?
It is Marcel Proust in Search of Lost Time.
Whoa!
Wow. Right,
Guys,
stab in the dark.
With your actual having inklings of what the right answer is.
Someday I will score more than 1 point.
Okay, we're past the halfway mark now, and there's everything to play for. Well, there isn't a prize, but everything else to play for.
Uh-huh.
Which controversial 20th century novel was described as overwhelmingly nauseating, even to an enlightened Freudian? The whole thing is an unsure cross between hideous reality and improbable fantasy. It often becomes a wild, neurotic daydream. I recommend that it be buried under a stone for 1,000 years.
Virginia Woolf?
Not even one of her novels, just Virginia Woolf.
Go over that again from the beginning, sorry.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly nauseating, even to an enlightened Freudian. The whole thing is an unsure cross between hideous reality and improbable fantasy. It often becomes a wild, neurotic daydream. I recommend that it be buried under a stone for 1,000 years.
I'll go to the
George
Lighthouse
Orwell,
on
Animal
Mrs.
Farm.
Dalloway.
Sorry,
So
what was
To
that?
the Lighthouse, Animal Farm. Andrew?
Mrs. Dalloway.
It's probably not, but first thing that popped into my head was Clockwork Orange, so I'll go about it anyway. I'll have that.
Okay. Well, a nice even outcome. No one has got it. It is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov.
It's going to be a weird sex thing.
Yeah, I'm quite glad none of us got the point, actually.
Yeah. On moral grounds, you're all winners. Now, which book, beloved by generations of Americans, saw its author receive a note that simply said, "Stick to teaching"?
The Great Gatsby.
Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
It's Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Why not?
Well, no points for anyone. It is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott.
Ah, damn it!
Of course, I should have guessed from the condescending misogyny of the note.
It's because she didn't have enough of the whole sultry lips going on.
Yes, the note did continue to say that she looked like a sexy deer. Rob said The Great Gatsby, and before we move on, I just want to say I do have a rejection letter for The Great Gatsby, although I felt it was slightly too obvious to include in the quiz. It simply says, you'd have a decent book if you'd get rid of that Gatsby character.
The Great Gatsby!
Even my lack of reading prowess would have got that one.
The Great!
The Great Daisy.
That great fellow over there, what's his name? Wazzik, that's it. I don't think it would have sold as much if it was called The Great Wazzik.
No, that's even worse than F. Scott Fitzgerald's actual working titles for The Great Gatsby, all of which were absolutely shocking.
Oh, really?
Remember Trimalchio in West Egg?
Yeah.
Ew.
Oh, yeah.
That's so poor.
Right, penultimate question. Which horror legend received the note, "We are not interested in science fiction which deals with negative utopias. They do not sell"?
Stephen
Aldous
King.
Huxley?
What did you say, Rob?
Stephen King.
Andrew?
King and Huxley, they're the good ones. I can't think of an answer that wouldn't be one of those two, so... Oh, George Orwell.
Okay. Well, it was Stephen King.
Yes! I'm finally off 1 point.
Well done.
Rob is outside of the 1 point window. Yes.
I'm finally tying with Andrew. Sarah's still in the lead.
Well, let's see. There's one question next, so someone has the chance to equalise with Sarah. And that question is, which cult 20th century British novelist received a note that simply said, "This author is beyond psychiatric help. Do not publish"?
This author is beyond
psychiatric help. Do not publish.
It was a British author.
Can specifically, I have a clue that the other two don't get. Oh, Jimmy, tell me who it is.
Was it Heinlein? I'm guessing it's going to be either Hubbard or Heinlein.
Neither of whom were British, were they?
Oh, I thought Heinlein was British, wasn't he?
Oh, I forgot what the clue was now.
Maybe he was, I can't remember. Hubbard definitely wasn't.
Oh, no, Hubbard was American.
The clue was 20th century cult British author who received a note saying, "This author is beyond psychiatric help, do not publish."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, Heinlein was American as well.
Philip Roth. Oh, isn't he American?
He is also American.
Oh.
We're going great with our American authors. I just want to say I'm really impressed with everyone's knowledge of American literature.
I mean, I might as well throw out Thomas Pynchon then.
I think it was George Washington.
What do you call him? Playwright. The guy who did Luton.
Hang on. Could you say it again? Just from the beginning.
The note.
Yeah.
The note was, "This author is beyond psychiatric help, do not publish."
William Gibson.
Okay.
I was going to say Jordan, but he's not a novelist, he's a playwright.
I just suddenly thought William Gibson because of the whole cyberpunk thing.
Okay.
And you did say cult.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say William Golding.
Nice guess.
That's also a really good guess as well, damn it.
Should we go for it?
Mm-hmm.
Was Ray Bradbury British, or was he American?
Yeah. I think he was British, wasn't he?
I don't know.
He taught at the University of East Anglia.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. Well, anyway, the offset of it is no one has a point and Sarah's won because the author in question was J.G. Ballard, who received that note from a publisher he had sent Crash to.
Ah, damn it. I was trying to think of the other one because I'd already mentioned Heinlein and Hubbard, and I was thinking of Ray Bradbury, and I was thinking, oh, who's the other one? His name.
The other science fiction author with a B at the start of his surname.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Yeah.
I should have just Googled the answers.
Where's the fun in that?
Because then I win.
Who was the guy who used to present the sci-fi things? And he wrote loads of books, and he was like in the top 3 sci-fi guys for a while in the 80s, and he used to present a program and everything.
Yeah.
What was his name? Can't remember his name.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yes, that's it.
We don't talk about him anymore.
You know what?
We don't talk about him anymore.
Oh no.
He's a bad man.
Is he a bad man?
Yeah, he's a very bad man.
Oh no, what did he do?
We don't talk about that either.
Oh, okay.
It's very bad.
Tell me later.
It's very bad.
This has passed me by entirely, sorry.
Where did that come from?
It's part of the reason why he doesn't live in the UK anymore.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Well, he doesn't live at all anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, why did that suddenly become a symposium on the goodness or badness of Arthur C. Clarke? I don't know. I don't care. What's everyone reading at the moment? And before you answer, I'm going to go first because I've been reading As If, which is Blake Morrison's book about reporting from the trial of the James Bulger murder. So literally everyone has a better chance of ending the show on an up note than I do.
Wow. That's wow. That is a wow. That's all you're getting off me. Just wow. Oh.
Well, I'm continuing to read Oh, Josephine by Jason, and I've read the second chapter now, the second section. There's only 4 sections. And the second section is about Leonard Cohen. And
yeah.
It's lovely. It's really nice. It's a lovely read. It just feels nice to read it. There's lots of open space. There's some hilarious fights. And
nice.
He fights with a few people, including Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan, and just generally punches them, and they punch him as well. And that's it.
Okay.
It's some lovely funny moments as well.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have been reading Spider-Man Forever Young by Stefan Petruccia in between bouts of forgetting that I have that book and that I need to read it for the show.
Is that everything? Have you had anything on your bedside table, Rob?
Oh no, I'm still working my way through this tome of a graphic novel called Moonshadow, which is by J.M. DeMatteis and John J. Muth. And it's like 500 pages of graphic novel, of not just graphic novel. It's basically Ray Bradbury, ironically enough, described it as beautiful, original, and haunting. And Michael Moorcock said, an outstanding graphic tale told at the level of literary and visual sophistication, which introduced new standards and aspirations to the genre.
Wait a minute. All this time we could have just been reading the blurb off the back instead of doing reviews. I wasted so much time.
So, I think that's about it for another week, isn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Super.
Oh, yeah, it's me, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
well, this show's ending as it began.
Yes. With me just toning out. Right, okay, so if you've enjoyed this episode and you want to listen to more episodes from us or from any of our sister or brother podcasts, then you can find them all on our website, thegeekshow.co.uk, where you'll also find other reviews and videos from YouTube and various things like that, as well as our Patreon and our shop and all sorts of other things. If you are interested in doing anything with us, then there are guides on our website on how to get into podcasting. And you can contact us on studio@thegeekshow.co.uk if you're interested in being on a show or doing any kind of assistance on the back end of things. And that's basically it from us. You can find all of our episodes also on Audio Boom, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and Stitcher, and various other places like that. So check them out. Until next time, I've been Rob.
I've been
oh, God damn it.
Okay, while we have that interregnum, can I just say, was it me or did Sarah make a noise like a cat at some point there?
She did. I heard it, but I decided to continue. Professionalism.
Sorry, I'm just incredibly childish at times.
Also, leave that in.
Again, as I've said, this week there's just not going to be an edit. It's a complete uninterrupted stream of garbage, as spoken by him, Rob, me, Andrew.
Me, Sarah.
And me, Graham.
And we'll see you all later.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.